Hey everybody, this is Dark Side Elite with another video here. There's been some news that's been circulating all about with what's going on with the Snyder Cut. I'm hearing that there's a possibility of a couple of Snyder Cuts going on, and that there's more than just one. I'm gonna pull up the information and see what is going on. Let's see. Let's see. There's ads. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna with this is gonna be the first time I'm going to actually play the YouTube of Chris Wong, and we're gonna both listen to what he's talking about. Are there two Snyder cuts for Justice League? And hold on. Okay, sorry about that. So we're gonna hear what he's talking about. Are there two Snyder cuts for the Snyder cut? And then he has another video out. Oh, what are they hiding? That's a Snyder cut that could expose the WB. We're gonna hear what they're talking about, and at certain points when he makes a poignant point, we're gonna go over it, and I want to be able to figure out what does this mean. Now, this is the first time I'm doing this, and I hope that all of you can understand. And also, I will put this video, both those videos, into the description down below, so you guys can see what's going on here. Okay, so so let's go ahead and listen to this.
Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flick Show. My name is Chris Wong. This is episode 374 of the Ping Pong Flick Show, and today I want to go over mainly about the Snyder Cut of Justice League. I think this is a huge topic, and some of the things that came out today could be quite interesting. As I said before, I want to go into what is the Snyder Cut and why does it exist. It's kind of the same thing.
Okay. Um, Now, this guy Chris Wong, he's actually one of the most fair people I've listened to about the Snyder Cut and WB and DC, and heck, even some of the Marvel stuff. He doesn't talk very much about Marvel. He really doesn't care for much of the Marvel stuff. Um, he's all DC. He loves a lot of the Toho Godzilla films. If you ever do watch his videos, he has a lot of Godzilla stuff and even DC stuff. He's a huge comic book guy. He has Funko Pops and everything else. I think that he's quite possibly one of the most fair people when it comes down to being fair in the middle. But he does champion the DC a lot more. Now, this video came out August 7th, so a couple of days ago, and there was another video he made. I believe that one is either today or yesterday. So we're gonna go over both of them, and he's gonna explain why does the Snyder Cut exist. He's gonna go into a little bit about it, and I'll bridge out anything else that he probably leaves out that I feel that's information that we all need to know. And again, this is gonna be a pretty long video, so I hope that all of you can understand why I do want to now utilize individuals like Chris Wong. I'll even bring in some Dave Pena videos, which is the film junkie, and even some DC film hubs if they talk about the Snyder Cut and what's going on. I want this to be more about the Snyder Cut than DC stuff because some of the some of the things that they talk about with the DC stuff I don't virtually agree with. I'm not gonna virtual signal. I like what Snyder did, and I feel that DC was doing it in a way that was much better for the characters than having them be one-dimensional characters. I'm all about create. Sorry, I'm all about directors' creative freedoms, and directors can't come in and do their own versions, but that doesn't mean that I have to be jumping up and down over it. That is my right as a consumer, and even as a consumer that likes the DC properties. That doesn't mean I have to like everything. Same thing goes for Marvel. There's some things I like about Marvel, and there's some things I just don't like about Marvel. I'm being fair about that. So let's go ahead and go in, and he will explain about the Snyder Cut.
For a lot of people who want to know, what is it? What are you talking about, the Snyder Cut? Didn't we see the Snyder Cut in the theaters? And for a lot of people in the know, like you and I, and most of the people that listen to me on my channel, and people on Twitter and social media in general, know that the theatrical version of Justice League is not the Snyder Cut. It was taken over by Joss Whedon. The studio came in, changed a whole bunch of stuff. Joss Whedon reshot a lot of things, and they edited together, compacted it into a movie that is less than 2 hours. And that is the movie that we got. It's not.
Okay, so he gave a really good understanding about why does it exist and what happened. Now, there are a few things that I feel that you as my audience need to know. Zack Snyder left the project because his daughter Autumn passed away. She committed suicide. Hence why there was a lot of big press about within the Snyder Cut movement about donations towards the suicide awareness. I could extend my heartfelt condolences to Zack Snyder and Deborah and all their children for that supreme loss. But he took the time away, and Joss Whedon came in. Now he will go into a little bit more in depth about it. And again, if he leaves some things out that I feel that you need to know, so you get a good understanding about why this cut is so important to a lot of us, then I'll bring it in. But if he gives it in a good way that I feel that you can get a good understanding, then I'll let him keep continuing his talks.
Now, a lot of people are still saying, it doesn't exist. It is kind of frustrating for a lot of people, I understand. And it kind of also depends on who you're talking to, how much do they know about film, how much do they know about cuts and things like that. Because if you were trying to say that the Snyder Cut, his director's cut of Justice League doesn't exist, then you'd be wrong. In fact, you can even research this yourself. When you go to the DGA.org, the Creative Rights Summary, there is a section called number 4, Preparing the Director's Cut. And I'm going to read it to you as follows. The director's right to prepare his or her director's cut is absolute. You must supervise the editing of the first cut following completion of the editor's assembly. You have the right to instruct the editor and to make whatever changes you deem necessary in preparing the director's cut. No one can interfere with or cut behind you during the period of the director's cut. The producer must give you time to complete the director's cut as follows. For theatrical motion pictures, 10 weeks or 1 day of editing for each 2 days of scheduled photography, whichever is longer. This process comes after principal photography. And as you and I know, and most of us already know, and for people who don't, Zack Snyder finished principal photography around October. Then we can say 10 weeks, about 10 weeks after that is from November to possibly about February, March, something like that. Then that is probably the amount of time he had to have done his director's cut.
Now, sorry if you're hearing doubles, then that's because I have the audio and then the mic, of course. Now, now, about the director's cut. I do believe that the Snyder Cut is the director's cut. That is the director's cut of Justice League. Um, I have a lot to say about that, but I want him to continue his speech. Now, we know that Joss Whedon, he said that Joss Whedon cut out a lot and made it under a 2-hour movie. This was mandated by Kevin Tsujihara and Toby Emmerich. Both of these guys told Joss Whedon to cut this movie down to 2 hours. They want to make as much money as possible and shove it out there as fast as possible because they wanted to make their yearly bonuses. Now, a lot of people are wondering why the heck would they do something like that? Wouldn't they just take their time? There's a reasoning why. It's because of the AT&T merger. They knew that they were going to get that merger. They were going to actually lose those bonuses, so they made sure that that movie got out so they could make their yearly bonuses, and if it tanked, it tanked. If it was great, it was great. So they were they were doing a win-win-win situation where the consumers got what they wanted. That it was a fun-loving movie that a lot of critics were trying to bash Zack Snyder for not doing. Two, they were going to make their yearly bonuses, and three, they were able to make their yearly bonuses before the AT&T merger. And if AT&T found out that this is what they were doing, they were going to lose those bonuses, and they probably would have been screwed over even further. So to them, it was a win-win-win situation. At the sacrifice of Zack Snyder's movie. Now there has been more news and speculations that Joss Whedon was orchestrated to do this, and no, I'm sorry, he wanted to do this. Because he came in and with a fat head, he thought that because he did the Avengers and he did $1 billion success Avengers, that he could do the same type of formula with the DC characters and people are gonna like it, um, which proved to be false. And it started to divide the DC community even further. You had people who love Zack Snyder movies who wanted what he finished. You have individuals like me that just liked DC movies, but they liked what Zack Snyder was building. And then of course you have people who are more of the average Joe, which is their natural right. Like I've always said, it's their right to watch the product or not. They pay with their hard-earned money, but they did not know what's going on. They just wanted to see a movie. They just wanted to see Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash, and Cyborg together on the screen for the first time, the Justice League on screen for the first time, and have fun with their kids and family. And they got a mockery of a movie, and they were like, it's okay, but I wasn't really invested in the universe anyway, not like I was with Marvel. So they were stuck very, very hard in a place, and listening to a lot of the media out there talking about that they rush jobbed it or anything like that, it just made it worse and worse and worse. So that was the in between what was going on in the interim with Zack Snyder and the Joss Whedon and why the 2 hour mandate. And there's a lot more I want to talk about, but I'm gonna wait until he's finished with his statements.
He put his cut together for everything principal photography, possibly had VFX, possibly had things, unfinished things, but in order to put it together so that he can take that cut, his director's cut, to the studio, to whoever's in charge of the final cut authority, because he doesn't have final cut authority. And we know that now because of how many changes were made and ultimately the movie that we got. We also can probably absolutely understand now that he probably was even present for Final Cut or the theatrical cut, because he said it himself. He did not see the movie. But his director's cut, his version of the movie, is 214 minutes. Still many months away from the release.
Okay, now he's talking about 200. He said 244 minutes. Now that was stated by Zack Snyder at the what everyone called the Snyder Con, him down in Valencia at his alma mater film school, where he showed his director's cuts of Dawn of the Dead, I believe Dawn of the Dead, Watchmen, and Batman v Superman. So he showed off his cuts of those movies and talked a lot about it. Now, when he got to the BVS version, a lot of people talked to him, answered questions, asked questions, but it really was bad questioning. I personally wish I was there. There was a lot of personal things that happened, and I couldn't make it down there. I was on my way down there, but something happened, and I couldn't get down there. I would ask the question. I'd have raised my hand and said, "Hey, what about this cut? We all know that it exists. Can you give us any level of information without getting yourself in a huge amount of trouble that you can assure to the fans that we're fighting the good fight?" And I have a feeling that a lot of people would have appreciated that question, and and he probably would have answered it as fair as he possibly could, and but it was shown that he put down how long was the Justice League cut, and he kind of just gave out 244 minutes, which is over 3 hours. That's over 3 hours. Um, because 200 minutes is basically, if you, I mean, 240 minutes is 4 hours. So he filmed Justice League to be about two movies. That's pretty much what he was doing. Um, so but I doubt that he had it that long. I think that his cut that he wanted to do was going to be about two over 4 hours, but he probably mandated it down to around 3 hours and by 300. I mean 3 hours and 30 minutes. I think it was. So but that's what he was talking about. And that's one of the big things that a lot of people were wondering, like how long is this cut, and we want to see it. So let's get further into it.
Released in November, where a lot of different films would take a long time to actually.
Okay, I'm sorry to cut him off again. But he's saying it's 214-minute cut that's unfinished. So 214 minutes. So yeah, that if 240 minutes is 4 hours, you're cutting out another 30 minutes. So you're looking at around 3 hours and 3 hours and let me see 3 hours. Let me see 4 hours, take out 30 minutes, 3 hours and 13. So 30 minutes off of that. So 3 hours and 4 minutes. So you're looking at three hours and 4 minutes of Justice League. That is a lot to say in that type of a movie. That means he would have given a greater level of backstory. He probably would have given the understanding of who the new gods are, who Darkseid is, who Steppenwolf is, what's the hierarchy, how powerful Steppenwolf and Darkseid really are, how dangerous this really is, and established a lot about Bruce and Wonder Woman and all these other characters trying to build themselves up. He would have given a lot there, and I have a feeling that Patty Jenkins and even James Wan would have kept going with that because James Wan was working specifically with Zack Snyder while he was scripting and building the pre-production of Aquaman. And we know that was going on because Aquaman was the moment he was done filming with Justice League. Jason Momoa put on his Instagram that he's on his way to Iceland. So that means that he was done with Justice League and he was leaving to go to start filming with Aquaman. And Aquaman started filming literally a few months before Autumn's death. So you're telling me that this man couldn't, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of things that people are not really putting two together. So again, I'm gonna let him finish, and then we're gonna get into it.
Do post production, finish up the VFX. There's a lot of things that had to be done. In fact, Zack Snyder even shows pictures of his unfinished cut. He shows Wonder Woman killing Steppenwolf. You can clearly see the green screen behind. The Ray Fisher cyborg dream, where his family's in the background. In the background, he had to put a template in because he didn't finish that either. Darkseid looks unfinished as well. That means that he didn't have time from May when he left to finish that, and which is why we believe that most of the 214-minute Snyder cut was unfinished. What does he mean then by saying, I have a cut? It's done. What I believe that means is he's talking in terms of how filming works. His director's cut. The director's cut before giving it to Final Cut Authority was truly done. He had.
Okay, so there's a question that a lot of people are wondering, like, what does he mean by it's done? It's not. It's not 100% done, and I think that Chris is hammering on right here. He's really illustrating it that by him saying that he has to give it to final approval for final editing and VFX and all the audio mixing and add in the soundtrack and scores, that him filming everything is 100% done. It's just not fully done. It's not visually spectacularly done. And I've always noticed this. It's like, wait a minute. I mean, if he's talking about principal photography, that means everything he filmed is done. That was illustrated by uh oh my god, by by uh by the guy who did the storyboards. Um, he said that 99 that 100% of the principal photography was done for Justice League. All he had to do was just do the video and the CGI and the sound and everything else. But if you're just talking about was the principal photography done, it's done. So I think that this is another hammer home that the movie is not fully done, but but everything he wanted to film, everything he wanted to say in the movie is done. If you want a better explanation, it's like you writing an essay. If you write an essay, you're just getting out all your ideas, you're done. The only thing is your paper's not done. Your ideas are done, but your paper is not done. You have to go through editing and sentence structure and build and making sure that you get down to your main ideas and your points. That means that you have to go through an editing process. That's the same thing for a film. So the story itself is done, but the editing and making it look beautiful is not done. So I hope that that was a good explanation, but I'm gonna let Chris keep talking more further about it.
Finished, he put it together, but he didn't do a lot of the effects because he only had 10 weeks to accomplish that, to put it in a timeline so that the producers and the studio can look at it and understand what type of movie he was going to make. For him to complete all 100% of the visual effects and everything would be very time consuming, more than 10 weeks. And also, why would he do that if he would believe, if he didn't even have Final Cut authority, and he would believe that the studio will probably cut his movie down like how they did with Batman v Superman? And so, with that in mind, you can kind of fully understand that his 214-minute version could not have been completed, fully realized, visual effects, sound effects, music, all done within those 10 weeks. We can safely assume that his director's cut was probably not approved and was probably chopped down, seeing how what the studio reacted to Batman v Superman. The other clue that Zack Snyder gave that there are other cuts is what he said at the Snyder Con. When he said, yeah, sure, there is a cut. I have many cuts. Meaning, he had many cuts after his initial 214-minute director's cut. Finally, today, we can understand that a little bit better. This is coming from Mark Hughes in his conversation with Helen O'Hara. Helen O'Hara made an article yesterday talking about the Snyder cut, and mainly probably talking about the 214 minutes cut, as she had contacted one of the big VFX company that worked on Justice League, and had it explained to her that it's impossible for them to have finished the VFX for that 214-minute cut when Zack Snyder left in May of 2017. Now, only a few days ago, Mark Hughes actually explained to us that he have come to realize that there is a cut that is almost 90+% complete. Then how could that be? Knowing full well that Zack Snyder only had 10 weeks to do his director's cut, he only had a few months to actually do post-production, and literally there's only 6 months away from November 2017 release when he left. How could it be 90+%? And so Mark Hughes decided to come into the conversation with Helen O'Hara. Now, Mark Hughes said this: Zack cut multiple versions of the film, some with more and some with less. The first cut was the full longest version, and later cuts were shorter and had more completion as time passed. I'll say I'm pretty certain the folks I spoke to aren't confusing it. If you consider the length of the later cuts of the film, which I've generally heard estimated at around 2 hours and 45 minutes, then 10% of footage being incomplete would equate to about 16 to 17 minutes of footage. That is a surprising find today. But Zack already told us there are many cuts.
Okay. Now this is the first time I've heard about the Helen O'Hara situation. because I've been kind of staying away from the whole Snyder Cut. I want to get another big reveal, but especially about this whole, are there two Snyder Cuts, or what are they hiding from Chris Wong? Now I know about Mark Hughes. This guy's a kind of a flip flopper. Try to keep himself relevant in the conversation. Before he was talking about that the cut never existed. He until he read it a little bit into it, and then he said, okay, well, maybe it does exist and stuff like that. So unless a person's gonna come in and talk about it, and he talks about it with a little bit better, genuine understanding than being negative, then I don't personally care. Um, Sorry about that. So I just don't really really care that much, and um and we already knew about this. Like I said, he said it was 214 minutes. If you take away the 16, 17 minutes, that's about the 2 hour. That is going to be about 2 hours and 45 minutes. So I don't. It does make sense. So I mean, we're just gonna have to find out whatever else he's trying to talk about.
And so from this, we can probably deduce that the first longer cut is the 214-minute cut, and that's the original director's cut, the movie he wanted to make. But because of studio intervention, because they wanted him to make it shorter, maybe possibly cutting out things here and there, who knows, they've come to an estimate of a 2 hour and 45 minutes, which equates to 165 minutes Justice League. So if we are to believe Mark Hughes here, and if he is correct that the latest cut is 90% complete, that means the 165-minute Snyder cut is almost complete. That's the one that we could possibly be watching more earlier than the actual 214-minute cut. And that is amazing. That is actually probably still be better than the Joss Whedon cut we see in the theaters. But how much is that? How much?
Okay. This is bigger news than I thought. 165 minutes of Snyder Cut. So that means you're adding in another 46, maybe 47 extra minutes because of the introduction and also the credit scene at the beginning at the end. So if you take all that out, you're adding in another, I would say on average maybe another 50 more minutes. That's a lot better than having that 50 minutes gone. So I, it's wishful thinking. I will be very surprised about this, and they use that as the Snyder cut or the director's cut. But I don't want them to do that. I want to see what Zack Snyder's cut. That's what I want to see. I want to see the 214 minutes because that is what he wanted to bring out. Now, if Zack Snyder himself comes out and says, "Hey, I will take the 165 minutes," that's a much better. That's much better. That gives you that he hopes that everyone enjoys that cut, and he doesn't backpedal and tries to say later that I kind of wish. No. If he comes out and says no, I believe in this cut a lot better, and the extra 16, 17 minutes that doesn't really do that much of anything, then and he kind of gives us an understanding that it only does this and this and this, but it doesn't give you the broader story. Then I'll be more than happy with that. That's, if you think about it, that's almost another hour. That's another hour added to the movie, and that's a lot of story to tell to the audience. So I will be very, very happy with that. But I will be elated. I will be elated if we got the 214 minutes. We got the full thing that Zack Snyder wanted to do. But if Zack Snyder backs this and says he gives his 100% approval to this, and he doesn't backpedal, then I definitely want to. I definitely will back this. I will back this play because that's what Zack Snyder wants us to do, and he wants to have his vision out there. And if he believes that even though 60, 70 minutes is not going to really change anything, then that'll be fine with me, because the 30 minutes of BVS, that was a lot. So I'm gonna let Chris finish it off here.
More is it going to take to make finished VFX or whatever needs to be done in that estimated 16 to 17 minutes of footage that needs to be worked on? We're not sure. And that's another conversation to be had later on. But at least we know that a cut exists. In fact, two cut exists. The 214-minute director's cut, we can probably call it the Justice League Ultimate Edition, and also the Snyder Cut, probably the theatrical edition that Zack Snyder cut down for studio approval. Of course, when he left in May, that all changed. And they brought in Joss Whedon to reshoot a lot of the scenes that he had already done to fit the tone that they wanted to match Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is unfortunate because the DCU is a different type of animal. The industry may want to tell everybody that there is only assembly cut, but now today we know further the truth. And we know which cuts we're talking about, at least. The 214-minute cut is probably the one that's most expensive to finish. The 165-minute one is not so much. But that also means that this two movies are farther along than what they want you to believe. What the studio wants you to believe that it doesn't exist. We know two versions of it exist, and one of them is over 90% complete. Now, does that interest you? Does that make you actually want to see it? And do you think we have enough hope there to actually see some version of the Snyder Cut? One, would Warner Brothers actually invest in either the 214 or the 165-minute version of the Snyder Cut of Justice League? And two, which version would Zack Snyder approve? Let's say Warner Brothers called in and said, hey, this 165 is the least one expensive to make. Let's make that one. Would Zack Snyder approve and say, okay, and he'll be present for the editing of that? Or would he kind of hold off and tell Warner Brothers, no, not until you approve the 214-minute version of Justice League? I'm feeling only time will tell, but the more the studio is silent, the more the public will find out that they've been lying this whole time and that there truly is another and possibly a better version of Justice League. There are two Snyder Cuts. Which one do you want to see? Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Okay. I really liked what he's saying, and I agree. Again, which one does Zack Snyder want to approve? I think that him being the type of guy that he is, I don't think he's gonna fight it. I think that he's gonna say, okay, 16, 17 minutes, whoopee do. I mean, as long as the fans are gonna be happy with an extra 50 extra minutes, then the fans will be very happy with it. The only thing that I have a feeling that a lot of fans are gonna ask him is, what do you think those 16 17 minutes is going to make a huge difference for the cut? And if he says no, it's not going to make that big of a difference. It's like honestly adding in a commercial breaks to a TV show. So I don't think that it's going to make that big of a difference. I think it's going to be visually certain things. However, we must think of it positively like this: if they approve and this movie makes a buttload of money for them, and they are able to get a lot of fans back on the DC train, then I think that's going to change the narrative a little bit for DC. I think that they might slowly go back to Snyder's type of universe, but have the directors give their own stories. But I think that they're going to try to add those elements back in. And also, if they make a lot of money and people are back on the DCU wagon again, and not creating boycotts, then I think that they will eventually think about putting in the ultimate cut and then bring out the whole Snyder trilogy and try to make a buttload of money like Star Wars did when they did the original trilogy, the original three. Then they brought out the original three with 1, 2, and 3, and then they brought out the special editions with 4, 5, and 6. And then I have a huge feeling after episode 9 they're gonna bring out the whole Skywalker saga in a 6 disc set that's gonna be with all this stuff for like over $200 just to try to make their money back from putting in all their money for Star Wars. So for Star Wars purists. So if they do that and they make a lot of money off of this 165-minute cut, then why not? I mean, look, I rather take this small victory for the overall victory than anything else. So I'm gonna bring up the other one. Okay. I'm gonna bring up this other one now. This is the one that he did today. Okay, so he brought this out today. This is probably earlier this morning. And what I'm gonna do is bring it out, and we're gonna go over this one again. And this is about this is what are they hiding? A Snyder cut that could expose WB, Batgirl, Supergirl, Momoa, TMT protest. Now, there is some news about the Batgirl and Supergirl situation. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Again, this might be pretty long, but and this is a 20-minute video, so let's see what they're trying to do here.
Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flick Show. My name is Chris Wong. This is episode 376 of the Ping Pong Flick Show. Thank you so much for tuning in to listen to more DCEU news. First up, this is coming from Heroic Hollywood, and with a grain of salt, however, because this is Heroic Hollywood after all, but they're saying this is an exclusive from them. Warner Brothers on the hunt for new Batgirl movie director. Batgirl has become a top priority over at DC Films and Warner Brothers, with a hunt for a new director currently underway. Warner Brothers has had a ton of success in putting superhero movies with female leads at forefront of the DC film slate. Wonder Woman was a critical and financial success that led to DC Films green-lighting a sequel titled Wonder Woman 1984, and other female-led films like Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn, Supergirl, and Batgirl. Now that Wonder Woman 1984 and Birds of Prey have finished filming and entered post-production, Warner Brothers and DC are moving their focus to Batgirl.
Okay, let's talk about this part. This was kind of a situation I knew that was going to happen. They are going to try to push Batgirl and Supergirl. My biggest complaint is I don't want them to establish Batgirl, Supergirl until they get Batman, Superman established. And if they're going to be in different universes, fine. That's perfectly fine. That means that they don't have to have the interaction between Batman and Batgirl and Supergirl and Superman. That's perfectly fine. However, if you want to create a concise universe, then that's the only way to do it. However, I'm thinking that the new WB president and Toby Emmerich are gonna probably butt heads a little bit on this, mainly because I believe that she wants to create a universe. He's saying no, we shouldn't, because it's just gonna cause more confusion, and they don't want to have the directors pigeonholed into having to follow one gigantic universe. Now, just on a side note, I'm doing videos talking about the movies in sequential order and how I would do it if I was the lead producer of the whole universe. And it's perfectly easy to do it as long as your theme is going to be, let's say the whole theme is the Legion of Doom. Well, the Legion of Doom is a culmination, just like the Justice League, of different villains of different superheroes. So it's very easy to actually create your first arc is going to be against the Legion of Doom, against the Justice League. As long as your individual movies are leading up to that big grandiose battle, then that'd be perfectly fine. The director just has to make sure that his story talks about the hero versus the villain, and then and then you give hints that they're leading up to a bigger thing. Now, what there's a lot of problems I had with Marvel what they were doing, but the way but how they could their formula to get to the bigger story is something that anybody could use. But they had a huge problem with in certain elements. But I'm gonna let Chris Wong finish here.
What's also interesting in that report is that earlier today, a production grid had revealed that Supergirl could begin filming as soon as early of 2020. But according to Heroic Hollywood, this is not the case, as the movie isn't as much of a priority as Batgirl at Warner Brothers. According to a source, Batgirl is currently a big priority, and the studio is even searching for a director for the project. Now, we don't have any names as who could direct Batgirl, but this should be taken as a good sign that Christina Hodson has delivered a fantastic script. Josh.
Okay, if we have to see because Hodgson, if you haven't heard that name, she did the writing for Bumblebee, and I think that that was a good movie. There were certain elements I believe that they should have kept from the Bayformers to keep it coincides, especially with that universe, or they should have just completely did a completely different universe. Now, it can go either way, but that movie was really really weird, but it was still written very very well. Um, I have to see how they do Birds of Prey because she's writing Birds of Prey, the Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Now, if that movie is girl power throughout the whole film, then I have a huge I'm gonna have a huge problem with Supergirl. I don't want Supergirl to be and I'm not pushing this onto the actress, but the Melissa Benoist TV show. I don't want that. I want Supergirl to be different than the TV show. I want Supergirl to be I would like Supergirl to be more like how she was in Batman Superman Apocalypse, the one where we get another retelling of the Kara Zor-El storyline, and she gets adopted by Darkseid, and coerced to becoming one of his new female Furies. I'm not saying I want that story. What I'm saying is I want that attitude in her. I want that attitude like, hey, I'm Kryptonian. I'm older than Kal-El. I'm supposed to be older than Kal-El. She is way older than Kal-El. She's supposed to be 17 years older than Kal when he was a baby. So she's supposed to be older than him, and she's also very Kryptonian. So I don't want her to be very wimpy and also that she has to be fun loving. No, I don't want that. I want her to have an edge to her that makes her fit differently than Superman, because then you're going to have her grow and understand why Kal-El is the way he is, and give her an understanding that humanity just needs a symbol. They don't need someone to lord over them as a god. They just want somebody to just help them, guide them with their abilities. So, but I'm hoping that they don't put in a whole bunch of girl power, like they don't need guys and this and that. It's like, wait a minute. Does anybody realize that without Superman or Batman, you would not have Batgirl or Supergirl? If it wasn't for the popularity of these guys, these girls would never have their illustrations. So you can't disrespect one to help the other. That's just, to me, that's wrong, and that's just disingenuous to the lore and the mythos of the characters.
Sweden previously signed on to write, direct, and produce a Batgirl film before exiting the project, stating he could not crack the story for it. A couple months later, Bumblebee writer Christina Hodson was hired to pen the Batgirl script after reportedly impressing Warner Brothers with her work on the screenplay for Birds of Prey. Batgirl is one of the many projects currently being developed by Warner Brothers in DC. These projects include the Flash standalone film, Green Lantern Corps, Black Adam, Supergirl, and New Gods. So this is all coming from Horror Hollywood. No other site has substantiated these claims at all. The Supergirl production grid came from Daniel Rickman at Daniel RPK, a proposed scooper. So that's that coming from that. But he also noted that someone told him that this placeholder for Supergirl is actually this date for Supergirl is actually a placeholder date, So it'll be for something else, in which Heroic Hollywood is suggesting this placeholder will be actually for Batgirl. So interesting enough that it gives a little bit more credence to other people who have said that Batgirl and Supergirl are next in line to become films by DC Films and Warner Brothers. This is something that Mark Hughes also has claimed in his Forbes article as well. Seemingly, this thing is actually being being passed around for this date. It makes sense for Batgirl though, because if they like what they did with Birds of Prey, they finished Birds of Prey. She's working on the Batgirl script. That's something that she's working on, and in a way, it would probably connect together with the Harley Quinn universe. Harley Quinn may even show up. Who knows? But Harley Quinn universe of Birds of Prey, and possibly even connect to the Suicide Squad, depending on that. I think there's supposed to be another Harley Quinn movie as well. So it's really girl power over there at Warner Brothers and DC Films. Very much like what MCU is trying to play catch up with their Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel 2, Black Widow. But DC is ahead of its time, ahead of the genre by doing it faster and quicker in that element, and it looks like that's the direction where they want to go in, especially probably because they don't really have a Superman movie right now. They're working on a Batman movie for sure, but for Superman, not sure. I think this could be great news for people out there who are looking forward to a Batgirl movie. We've never had a Batgirl movie, so that's something to look forward to. We never had a good Supergirl movie, although the Helen Slater one was not too bad, and it's probably because it's ingrained in my nostalgia.
Okay. He was talking about the I think it was 1983 or 84 Supergirl movie. I remember that movie coming out. I don't remember it coming out. I remember watching it on TV, and it's dated. It's in the same vein as the 1978 Superman. It felt very corny, and they try to make it very doughy because she fell in love. She was falling in love with Jimmy, and she had doe eyes for Jimmy and everything else. And I personally felt that that was very weird for the character to have, but they made her very very girly, and that was because of the time that it was in. Now, now I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this, but it's gonna be a little bit later. I'm not gonna try to overlap this whole situation, but um, the Supergirl over Superman is very weird to me. I'm very nervous about that, only because I would like for them to at least get a Superman going first before they introduce Supergirl, and then you're gonna have people really trying to put the point that this should be how Superman should be, and it's like, no, no, you need Superman different than Supergirl. You cannot have two characters who have the same personality. It just makes it very very weird. It makes it very cartoony, and you don't want the characters to feel cartoony. You want the characters to feel realistic. Like these are real people with real problems and real situations, and I think that that's what Zack Snyder was doing, but to a lot of people it felt way too real, and it tuned them out, and unfortunately that was the point of what happened with Man of Steel.
But I'd like to think that if they are really thinking about Supergirl, and if they are really thinking about Batgirl, that at that point in time, the whole story about Batman not being in Birds of Prey could eventually turn to Batman actually coming back to Gotham, and then maybe, possibly maybe, if it's not Ben Affleck and if it's not Henry Cavill, that will be their starting point in order to introduce the new Superman, introduce the new Batman, whoever they're going to use, however they're going to play it, and I like it to be that way rather than being like how they're doing Thor right now, where it's like Jane's going to be the new Thor, but does that mean we're going to get Thor? And I like to think, I think they are, but I like to think that we're not just replacing Superman, replacing Batman, which I don't think, because Matt Reeves has a Batman trilogy, although that's may not even be the same universe as the DCEU. Who knows at this point, right? But I like to think not replacing the DCEU Superman and Batman. I like to think that they're adding to it, adding Supergirl, adding Batgirl, so that they can all, be in part of the same family and stuff like that. And like, so we'll still have a new Superman movie. We'll still have a new Batman movie. An older Batman, who knows, or Matt Reeves Batman if that's taken over, who knows. But but number one is Superman movie. I get it. We've had so many Superman films, and we've barely had any, just one Supergirl movie, and it's not fair. I get it, but as a Superman fan, I'm still looking forward to Superman movie, another Superman movie. But you know what? Supergirl movie is right down my alley as well. It's the supers that the L's that I want to know more about, the want to see more movies about. I'm not throwing shade on Batman, but there's a lot of Batman type stuff going on right now, and as more of a Superman the family, I want to see more of that, be it Supergirl, Superboy, the dog. I just feel like we're getting so much Batman centric rogues gallery and villains and things like Suicide Squad. It's like I just want more Superman. Is that so much hard? Is that too hard to ask? But in any case, I'm glad there's Supergirl is going to be on the slate, not just Batgirl, unless this is wrong and it's actually just Batgirl, not Supergirl. Who knows? But in any case, it's interesting, and I want to look forward. I look forward to how they're going to build this DCU, and how they're going to continue on, and how much are they going to keep from the old DCEU. That's part of the conversation anyway. But as part of the old DCU or the current DCU, however you want to think about it, Aquaman, Jason Momoa is Aquaman. He
Okay, I know he switched over to a new prompt. Okay, about the whole thing with Batgirl and Supergirl. I agree with him. I do agree with him that we've had a lot of Batman movies. We had a good amount of Superman movies. It's kind of time to see Batgirl and Supergirl. However, it just depends on if this is going to be an interconnected universe or this is going to be a separate universe. If this is going to be all separate universes in their own personal movies, then that's fine. Give us those movies. I mean, that's perfectly fine. But if you're going to build a universe, you have to have Batman Superman already established, because that's kind of strange that you're going to introduce Batgirl, but then Batman's nowhere around. And in an interconnected universe, that there's no Batman. And or you're doing an origin Batman while there's a Batgirl walking around. So you're going to confuse your audience into thinking, oh, so Barbara Gordon was Batgirl before Bruce Wayne became Batman? Oh, that seems kind of strange. So you're just like, it's like you're retelling history for no apparent reason. Same goes for Supergirl. You're gonna have Supergirl around, but then Kal-El just shows up being as Clark Kent, saying, "Hey, I'm Superman." It's like, well, we already got a Supergirl. Why? So you should be just call yourself something else. So it's gonna cause a lot of confusion with the audience if this is gonna be an interconnected universe. However, if this is all separate and they're not gonna intermix, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. That means go ahead and do these other movies and do what you wish. That's what I think they're gonna do. I don't think they're gonna want to touch a cinematic universe. I think they're gonna just do separate movies and just keep them separate and just make a buttload of money and do it that way. But that's what I'm seeing. But that can all change after 2 or 3 years. I mean, that could change massively in 2 or 3 years. Okay, let's finally start connecting everything. So we'll see how that goes.
is a fantastic Aquaman. The movie made $1 billion. They're going to make a sequel. I just noticed this article going out today, and I noticed that recently one of them deleted it for whatever reason. But it's in concerns to a Instagram picture that Jason Momoa put out on his account called Pride of Gypsies, and it is a picture, and I'm very familiar with this because I do live in Hawaii. There is something going on the Big Island, on the Mauna Kea mountain. They're trying to build, I forget, it's the government or the state's trying to build this giant a giant telescope over there, right? And the locals, the local people, the natives especially, are trying to keep this from happening because this is sacred grounds and stuff like that, holy ground in terms of this is Hawaiian land. Uh,
Uh, oh wow. Um, wow. Okay, so basically, okay, I know you guys are not be able to watch this, but apparently there's some people trying to build a telescope on his native land in Hawaii. Uh, oh wow. Okay, so basically, his Instagram, he's called Pride of Gypsies. Um, I'll read this to you guys. It says, well, f this, and TMT is 4 times bigger. Sorry, Warner Bros. We can't shoot Aquaman 2 because Jason got run over by a bulldozer trying to stop the desecration of his native land. This is not happening. We are not letting you do this anymore. Enough is enough. Go somewhere else. Repost. This is what telescope construction looks like. The Subaru telescope back in 1992, and it continues on, but it doesn't show it. He has it up on his video, so you guys can look at it. I don't have Instagram. I'm getting myself off of Twitter, honestly, and I'm kind of staying away from Facebook. My personal reasonings, but however, I mean, Jason Momoa is a very very prideful person in his heritage. You know, he I believe he's Native American. He's obviously Samoan, and also he is I believe he's Irish or Scottish. I think he has some of the most boiled bloodlines in the world. I mean, he has very rooted lines, and he has a lot of pride about this. So if he's pretty much saying, I'm not doing Aquaman 2 until this is done, then no. So that basically shows that, oh wow. And I think that, well, we don't have to worry because Aquaman 2 is not being shot until 2020. So he has time until this is all taken care of. But I hope that this gets taken care of, because if he's not going to do it because these people are building stuff on his land, I mean on his native land, and they're saying that this is sacred ground, then I don't think this is going to happen. But I'll let Chris continue talking about it. To me, it's wow.
and so they've been protesting, they've been trying to block trucks, they've been doing a lot of things, and it seems like Aquaman himself is getting involved in this. He posted this picture. I don't think he actually was there, as it said on the bottom, at Canyo Lang, but he said this, and TMT is 4 times bigger. TMT is it's kind of like it's about the telescope. And so he says is 4 times bigger. Sorry, Warner Brothers, we can't shoot Aquaman 2 because Jason got run over by a bulldozer trying to stop the desecration of his native land. This is not happening. We are not letting you do this anymore. Enough is enough. Go somewhere else. Repost. This is what telescope construction looks like. Subaru telescope 1992. So that's not what's actually happening. The TMT will be 4 times larger on unscathed land. We must protect our sacred mountain from further desecration. Kukaya Mauna, we are Mauna Kea, TMT shut down. So and it's true. It's this thing is actually right now happening on the Big Island, and he's getting involved with it. I don't know what he means by sorry, Warner Bros. We can't shoot Aquaman 2. I don't know if this is even a push or anything, or he's just saying that, hey, I'm probably going to get run over by a bulldozer trying to stop this desecration. So, Aquaman 2 is probably not going to happen because I'm not going to be alive. He could be playfully saying that. I don't think the article suggests that he's gonna use Aquaman 2 in order to do this, to protest, and by not doing Aquaman 2. But I don't think that's the case at all. I really don't. I think he's just saying that if something happens to him when he's protesting this, then Aquaman 2 is not going to happen. So I like to say go ahead. I would say, like, not that you're going to listen to any of this, but um, that's what he believes in. That's what he believes in. He's going to go and protest and whatever, but please keep safe. Please don't do anything dumb and actually get run over by a bulldozer. But if he does, then the bulldozer guy's going to get, thrown in jail for manslaughter. But I just want to let you aware that this is a big thing over on the Big Island right now. And it would make sense for someone like Jason Momoa to get involved in that type of ordeal. And best of luck to him if he does get involved and able to stop this thing from happening. I don't know if they can. I mean, it shows in humanity and mankind's strive for progress. Uh, it's going to be a difficult battle, but best of luck to them. Best of luck to them. So,
Okay. Okay. So basically, he's on the Big Island right now in Hawaii, trying to defend his native land, which makes sense. I mean, like Chris said it, he said it very very well. That's exactly what I would have said. More power to him. I do hope that he keeps himself safe, and I hope we don't have a tragedy down in the Big Island with the death of Jason Momoa, because I don't think he's going to put himself in that much danger. He does have children. He does have a wife right now. I mean, he's married to Lisa Bonet, and I don't think he's going to put himself in that big of a danger. He's just trying to do what he can to try to stop this. Now, I don't know very much about the TMT thing. I think that's more about what's going to happen in the state of Hawaii and what they're going to do. But having a big name like Jason Momoa down there, and also he is Aquaman and all this, and get more public exposure to this, I don't know. I think they might actually slow this down, and they're going to have probably some legislative talks about it. But again, that's more politics, and this is not about politics. This is more about movies. So let's continue on. I think he's going to move forward.
in any case, I still think Aquaman 2 is happening. But moving on, and this may just be, you know, something I just want to talk about. And if you don't want to listen to this part, I'm gonna say it. So it's about the 165. So if you don't want to listen anymore, you can shut off this video, unsubscribe, whatever. But I just gotta think. I'm thinking about this cut a little bit more today. I know a lot of people's feelings about it, 214 or nothing, things like that, whatever. But I'm thinking about it, and it's possible, right? That this has nothing to do with Zach and stuff. This is about Warner Brothers, right? Warner Brothers keeping silent, and a lot of these scoopers and bloggers, and I'm just thinking why Mark Hughes would say that now. And he said it in a way that he said he was wrong, right? And I'm like, wrong, but so where did you get that whole? You fought with Jay Oliva, you fought with stuff and stuff. So you fought with people, and obviously he's working with Jay Oliva right now. Is
Okay, that's the name, Jay Oliva. Jay Oliva, it was the film board artist who did Justice League and a lot of DC animated films. I believe he did The Dark Knight Returns and a few other animated films for DC. This man massively championed for the Snyder Cut, and yes, Mark Hughes, the guy that he was talking about in his previous video, he talked extensively that the cut doesn't exist. You don't know what you're talking about. And Jay Oliva says, I think I do, because I made my own films, and I can tell you I was there. And Mark Hughes kept fighting him about it, and it just turned into a very toxic situation about the cut. However, Jay Oliva at the very end was right. So I don't understand why Mark Hughes kept fighting, and now Mark Hughes is trying to be on the side of the Angels with the Snyder Cut and saying, "Oh, it does exist now, and this and this and this." So, like I said in my earlier, that you can't trust people like Mark Hughes. If he's gonna come out and say, "Oh, it doesn't exist," and all of a sudden flip a script about the fact that he's been told by people who worked on it, says, "No, it does exist," and then now he's gonna flip his script because he got new information, saying, "Oh, maybe it does exist," then then honestly don't listen to somebody like him. You honestly shouldn't talk to someone like him, because that means that he's only doing it to make as much money as possible, because he can't get himself a freaking real day job. He can't get himself at a real paper at a real publisher to really do any good journalism. He's just doing it just to get clicks and get likes. So, but Jay Oliva has no pony in the horse. He works for both Marvel and DC, so it's not like he's trying to get DC over on Marvel, because he does a lot of stuff with Marvel too. So we're gonna get further into this, and I want to know what's Chris's perspective about it. Could expose Warner Brothers. I have a huge suspicion about what it could do, and but if he doesn't hit on it, then I'll explain at the end of the video before I wrap it up.
Is it possible Jay Oliva told him about the 165? But why didn't Jay Oliva tell us about the 165? Or the, I saying 165, but it's actually 2 hour 45 minutes, which equates to 165. It's just easier to say 165. But and you can throw me in the 165 club for all I care. But I'm just thinking, if Mark Hughes is apologizing, saying he was wrong, he found out that something's more 90. It was 90% more complete, and the 90% on the shorter cut is more complete. Then is that something like Warner Brothers wants to hide? If you think about it, Umberto Gonzalez and a whole bunch of other people had said it, verbatim, it's like it's an assembly cut. It's an assembly cut. We kept hearing that. Many bloggers were saying, many media, the press, were the people in the websites and stuff like that. They're all been saying it's an assembly cut. It's an assembly cut. Even Ben Fritz, right, and the senior executive of whatever in that Wall Street Journal, saying that it's a mythical Snyder cut, never moved past the assembly cut. Assembly cut. I mean, it is a term in the vocabulary of production processes. But what if now? I don't know, but what if Warner Brothers has been force feeding this to the news? They've been saying this, trying to hide the fact that Zack Snyder got farther in completing his cut, whether it's the 165, the 180, 200, whatever. But they're trying to hide this thing by saying that he only has got as far as the assembly cut, right? And we know by now that he got farther than that. But just in the minds, if you take a step back and you're thinking like a journalist, and as a journalist, you're gonna contact the studio, because the studio owns the movie. So you go to the studio, you call them up, and they said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. There's only there is no Snyder cut. It never went past the assembly cut. Is that, what John Campea is saying, right? So it never went past. Of course, Kevin Smith blurted out there, no, I got a little farther than that. But there is a cut. It does exist. And now we're going to the point where it's like, okay, Warner Brothers is like, okay, we'll let that one go, because it's still not done. We're not gonna put any money into it. It's past the assembly cut. Not that they're saying anything. They're very silent about this. They're not saying a thing. Zach's not saying a thing. It's just my speculation. Let's that be clear. But Warner Brothers could be saying, hey, you know what? We're still not saying anything, right? Because it's not even done, and the journalists are gonna go to the VFX people, and they're gonna report that oh yeah, it's gonna cost another 30-40 million, whatever, so their studio's not gonna spend money on that. The Ringer, he's gonna go contact some other people, says, do you think the studio will spend 30 or 40 million on a cut to release that? And they're like, no, they're not gonna do that, right? So we're being very conspiracy here, but Warner Brothers maybe just like let them think that. Let them think that we don't even have a single cut. It never got past assembly. It never got past anything that we put our investor money into, which is true, because that's the 214, right? The 214 is probably not anywhere near completion, or we don't even know the substantiated amount, what minor tweaks is. But I was thinking that when Mark Hughes said that there is a shorter cut, That's almost 90% complete. And if you think about it, this could be the Justice League theatrical that Zack Snyder approved of. This is what he was going to put on theaters because, in theater, you can't have a 3 hour cut. Over 3 hours. It has to be below 3 hours in order for the theaters to want to show it. And so you think about that and you're like, Warner Brothers may be wanting to hide this fact. This is their gravestone, per se. This is the part that will expose all their lies, okay? Because it had gone further. It had gone up to the point that there is an actual theatrical, ready made theatrical cut before Joss Whedon showed up. Because they wanted you to believe that it never got that far.
Okay. He has a lot. He's a little bit more to say, but I have some stuff to say. Um, this is a gigantic drop bomb if this is what was the case, and honestly, it goes in line with. No, it's exactly what I think it is. I think they were trying to hide the fact that they screwed up. They're trying to hide the fact that they screwed up, and also that the film was a lot further prepared and ready to go. They just have to put in they have to tweak a few things, get the CGI and this and this and this and this. So that movie probably would have been ready for maybe 10 million or maybe 5 million. We don't know. I mean, we don't know how much the CGI would have been. But but if the movie was that ready to go, then oh boy, that's what I think that this is the big thing that a lot of people don't know and or don't realize, um, that the movie was that further along. So I'm gonna let him finish up, and then I'll finish up with some of my ideas.
It never got that far, but it did get far. And just by exposing that fact that if Mark Hughes is right, and there was a 2 hour and 45-minute theatrical Zack Snyder shot, music, everything. Everything. It's a watchable. You can walk in the theaters right now and watch that cut, and it won't have a lot of, it won't, probably not even a bunch of too much previs and stuff. Almost 100% cut that we've just exposed Warner Brothers. And Warner Brothers is going to be like, oh, they know. Well, I guess we're going to have to ante up the other one, huh? I mean, that's the level of exposure. I think it's on its way there. But who am I, right? I'm just a dude on YouTube. I don't know any better. I'm just speculating. And hey, like I said, if the 214 is done, then hell yeah, release that and F the 165, right? Anyway, thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Okay. We got a lot of information from Chris Wong about the whole thing with the Snyder cut, and I'm gonna give you quick. So I don't want to make this too long. It's already over an hour, and it's gonna take a bit for it to upload. But um, this is a huge bombshell. Like if this was the case, and I already knew this was gonna be a big situation a long time ago. I said this before, and I say it again that Aquaman had to be a success, and so did Shazam. They had to be a success for them to even consider looking at the Snyder Cut. But you had so much infighting with between the audience and a lot of people that they didn't want to deal with it. They allowed our movement to eat itself alive, and slowly it did because you have people sitting there talking about boycotting, and other people are saying no, either Snyder Cut or no DC. So and again, that's how they want to spend their money, but they need to look at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture was that they honestly should have just told us that the cut does exist, but here's the reasonings why, instead of having like John Aaron Garza or anybody else talk about it. Um, However, if this is exposed, then Kevin Tsuchihara and Toby Emmerich are gonna be reamed by AT&T. I think that's the reason why AT&T is backing them so hard on this. Like, no, 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 don't do this. And when they got this whole mess, they looked at it and were like, "Are you guys kidding me here?" So they're trying to do their best to get a better public face, but this cut is so bad for WB and for AT&T and T and this whole thing that they have to do so much. They have to do something drastic for them to get the egg off their face. And also Toby Emmerich needs to really back himself off and let Ann Coulter run the show, because he can't get his hands into cookie jars that much anymore. He needs to just stay the heck away from all of it. But I knew that if they revealed this cut, it was gonna. And if this movie was phenomenal, if it was 2 hours and 45 minutes, and that movie blew the 2 hour cut away, which it will. I mean, 45 extra minutes is a lot, but it blew that 2 hour cut movie out of the water. Then they hit a new massive low. Um, if the movie was good, but it was passable, then they can just easily say, well, see, I mean, we cut it down to 2 hours and it still didn't make a difference. But I mean, 45 extra minutes, it's not gonna make it feel mediocre. It's gonna make the movie feel a whole lot fleshed out, better storyline and everything else. They need it's gonna put a lot of egg on their faces, and it's gonna make Ben Affleck and Henry and all the actors and actresses that put their hearts and souls into Justice League. It's gonna give them a little bit more validation that this is what was going on, and I have a feeling that Ben has now divorced himself from it now, and he's having fun. He's gonna go have fun with Kevin Smith and make Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie. He's gonna have fun. So he's at a point in his career that he could just now have fun and just do good movies. I think he's gonna divorce himself from it, and that's where a lot of us should do. Once this is all taken care of and is exposed, then we need to just divorce ourselves from it and just move forward. Um, but but I have a feeling that WB is going to really hold back. Sorry, they're going to really have to hold back and let the movies just be itself, and um, not murky the waters. Let the audience decide if the movie was great or not. And you're gonna have that division. You're gonna have people that are not gonna like the movie, and that's fine. That's the point of a good debate. I mean, you don't everyone does not have to like the movie. The main thing you want to do is you want to gather people to want to watch your products. If someone doesn't like Shazam, but they like just let's say a Justice League Dark movie, and they want more darker movies, why don't you just bring out darker movies? What if they didn't like Shazam, but they love the Joker? The Joker broke so much ground for everybody. Then does that mean that now you have to make all dark movies? No, just have the director make the movie that they want to do. Let the audience figure out if that's what they want, and you're gonna make money regardless, because these characters are going to make a lot of money regardless. And you're not going to have people are going to want to like all the DC stuff. And you're going to have Marvel people talking about that. Why don't they make an interconnected universe? They got this, they got that, and now they have all this stuff. I don't like DC because it doesn't do this and this and this. And so what? So what? You can still stand behind the fact that your company can say, when you go into a comic book store, every comic book is going to be different. Not everyone is going to be the exact same comic book. So when you pick up a Swamp Thing, it's not going to be the same as Plastic Man. Plastic Man is a slapstick type of book. When you pick up a Batman book, it's not going to be the same as a Booster Gold and Blue Beetle book. No, it makes no sense. When you pick up a Nightwing book, it's not going to be the same as Teen Titans. It's going to be different because the characters are going to be different. The whole situation and the world that they're in is going to be different. So they could stick behind that, and I'll be perfectly fine with it. I will be perfectly fine with that if they stick to that level of a script and just build their universe. And I don't mean interconnected. What I'm just saying, just build the universe, build the DCU brand in the whole, and you'd be perfectly fine. I don't want them to build a universe. They tried it, and it's going to be a much more murky situation. And just make movies now. Just make movies, and when they make so much buttloads of money and they're actually surpassing Marvel, which is they're gonna easily do because their characters are way more renowned and way more acknowledged than Marvel characters. And you could bring those obscure characters in and be perfectly fine. Marvel right now is having a problem building a TV brand. Now, how you feel about the CW Arrowverse? That doesn't excuse the fact that they build a solid universe. They have all these wide variety of characters and a lot of diverse characters in there, forced or not. It doesn't matter. They're diverse that they have a good solid universe. Same goes for the streaming service. You got so much stuff there that they're building a great silver screen universe than their big screen universe, and that's fine. Once they get their big screen universe, DC's good. DC just has to make movies, make their products, and it'll be perfectly fine. Um, as much as one of my friends does not like Titans, I like Titans. I like Doom Patrol, and I love Swamp Thing. I might like Stargirl. If it seems like it's crap, then I'll watch it, but I'll move on. Young Justice season 3 is breaking bank with me. I love it. The CW universe, I like certain aspects of it, but I don't like the whole because it just seems really weird and it seems very tween. But that's the demographic that they have. They're not building that universe for comic book fans. They're building it for comic book tweens, people who are very young and they don't care. They just want to see social drama and teen drama, and that's what they're doing there. Um, I cannot wait for certain other new things that they're going to be doing. So again, the whole thing is they just need to build their brand, and they'll be perfectly fine. But if this cut is phenomenally better, it blows the original Justice League that Justice League movie out of the water, then WB has got a lot of egg on their face, and they need to showcase that they are going to keep themselves out of a lot of cookie jars unless it's that bad. If it's that bad, then yeah, get their hands in the midst of it and make it better. But I think that they got Ann Coulter there. They are thinking about money, which is the good thing. They're thinking about money, but they're all thinking about quality. They're thinking about the quality of their products, and I think that's how they need to move forward. So, like I said, like, subscribe, share down below. Please, I want to talk about this. How do you guys feel about it? What is your take on Chris Wong's videos? I will link those down below and give you guys a lot of information about it. So you guys have a great day. Bye.